All right, folks, joined now on the alley-oop by Brenden Nunes, who is of Sactown 1140 and the Kings Pulse podcast. Brenden, thank you so much for hopping on with me, man. Let's talk about the Kings. This should be a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Excited. Glad the season's here.
It has been a good start to the year, and we've got a couple things lined up now, but I did want to focus on the Kings because been in the tabloids a little bit with a couple of impressive performances, couple of awesome games. Obviously, you have the opener, a strong opening win against the Utah Jazz. I gotta tell you, man, the Malik Monk dunk on opening night, absolutely
Man,
ridiculous. I was flummoxed, I was floored, but that's just what Malik Monk does. Uh, Steph and the Warriors, they get you guys in the second game in the home opener, but it was a fun game and a really good performance on both sides, I'd say. And then an elite response win to the LA Lakers. And now the Kings are 2-1, even when you have Domantas Sabonis go out to foul trouble in this third game. De'Aaron Fox, well, we'll see about this ankle injury and then what that's going to look like over the course of these next couple. But over the course of these first three games, has anything that's happened surprised you so far?
nothing has been all too surprising. There was a lot of reaction around Kevin Herter's first two games, and that also carried over from his preseason and postseason, and a lot of people seem to be concerned. They started Chris Duarte one game in preseason, and everybody's like, oh my God, are they going to start Chris Duarte? There's such an emphasis on defense. I think it was kind of sending a message from Coach Brown that they really, really want to get better defensively, even if that means taking a little bit of a step back offensively, even though obviously don't want that to be the case. They recognize that's a possibility when their bet to get better defensively is really a lot of it on physicality and focusing on the details, getting as many defensive rebounds as they can, being extremely physical, fighting through screens. I think De'Aaron Fox has looked great defensively, and they always talk about him as the head of the snake, the guy that sort of sets the tone there defensively. I think he's been really good in that aspect. We've seen Keegan Murray. I thought last night against the Lakers, he had a great game. He had huge offensive rebounds late in the game, and some fun sort of learning moments mid-game with Coach Brown that went on as well. But nothing has been honestly all too surprising. I think they've been extremely competitive. I do think that you've seen the physicality, and that's led to them fouling a lot. I think it was 23 free throw attempts in that first half against the Lakers, but then they adjust and only 11 in the second half and overtime. So I think the first three games for me has been a lot of, okay, the offense is still there for Sacramento, obviously, surrounded by and centered around De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and they clearly are embracing this physicality. So we'll see how far that gets them.
Good numbers for both Fox and Sabonis to start the year, I'd say. Fox just going turbo mode and playing at a pace that nobody in the NBA can really match. It's always tremendously fun to watch. And honestly, that's the thing that I really latch onto with this team. They're the most fun team in the NBA, and I cover the Denver Nuggets a lot of the time. So it is amazingly enjoyable experience to turn on and watch the Kings over the course of this last year, but also hopefully this year. And what this kind of has looked like through the first three games, I think is about the same. And you've got Fox going turbo mode. He's got the clutch gene. You've got Malik Monk, Kevin Herter. I know that Herter didn't start well with the first two games, but hit a clutch three in the Lakers game, and that was a big one, especially late with Fox out. Keegan Murray's averaging 9.7 3-point attempts per game. Like, that's nuts. That is a tremendous number, and just I think continues to show how much how much of a valuable contribution he can continue to make to this roster. Uh, is this the most fun team in the NBA to you? Because I just kind of nonpartisan observer, I think it is.
I mean, I clearly enjoy their games. I think part of the enjoyment is what I mentioned. They have a great defense, and honestly, until proven otherwise, a great offense, and until proven otherwise, a horrible defense, which
Yeah.
makes for pretty entertaining basketball, right? You get a lot of offense on both sides, high scoring. You never know. Neither team is ever really out of it in those games because the Kings can catch up in a hurry, and honestly, they can give up a lot of buckets in a hurry too. So I will say, to your point with Murray, there was a fun moment last night where I think it's around the 8-minute mark of the third quarter that Keegan gets a rebound, outlets it to Fox, comes up the court, and as Fox is attacking Austin Reeves, Keegan relocates and is open at the right wing. And Fox kicks it to him, and Reeves, who was just checking Fox, attempts to do this long closeout to Keegan Murray. And this guy set the NBA record for made threes as a rookie last year, shot 41% from three, and he didn't pull it right away. He kind of hesitated, then pump fake and went to attack the closeout with a drive, but traveled. Coach Brown was not happy, to say the least. He's a very spirited guy, right? And the broadcast caught him pretty well, very quickly going to his bench and bringing Sasha Vezenkov up to the scorer's table and telling the refs, hey, I have a sub here. LA checked the ball in pretty quick. He didn't get his sub. They miss on the other end, and pretty much the same thing happens. Keegan gets a rebound and kicks it to Fox, relocates to the exact same spot. Lakers somehow lost him in semi-transition. He pulled it right away, and Coach Brown sent his sub back to the bench and decided to keep Keegan in the game. And he said later in the game, the only reason that Keegan will ever come out of the game when it's not a planned substitution for rest is if he is not shooting the ball. So they clearly are saying you need to shoot it every single time that you are open. He also chewed him out yesterday. One time he didn't shoot when his defender shot the gap, went under on a screen. Like, they absolutely believe this is an elite 3-point shooter. I think everybody in the league does at this point, to be honest, and are trying to get him to pull it as many times as possible.
It's tremendous. It is a tremendous weapon to have, especially for a Kings roster that the offense is always going to be there. But the reason why the offense is always going to be at peak condition is when the spacing around Fox and Sabonis is as best as it can be. And one of the things that I've learned covering the Nuggets, and obviously there are some massive parallels between the Nuggets and the Kings, is that the best way to formulate a great team is to get your great offensive players to play great defense. Or you can add one of those guys like a Michael Porter Jr. or a Keegan Murray, who I think, hey, those are very similar guys in their own right. You have a couple of guys like that. And then if that becomes a building block, then you can mix and match in some of the other positions. You can add some defenders here and there. You can continue to build up the roster. And suddenly you're looking at a team that goes deep in the playoffs or even has a chance to win a title. So it is tremendous to see where this team is right now. And knowing that they can still go further, knowing that they still have other avenues to get better, and Keegan Murray is absolutely one of those places to go. Sabonis facilitating this style is so important. He doesn't get a lot of credit, especially with the way the playoffs ended last year, but it's so clear that when this team is at their best, it's when he's at the high post and he is facilitating to the cutters, spraying the ball out to shooters, things like that. And this team has the right personnel to take advantage of that. But it's also a luxury to have Malik Monk and guys like that. I can't get enough of what this roster looks like right now. The defensive pressure points is probably something that we should talk about. It's still not looking tremendous from that end, but is there something that has stood out that you didn't think you would expect from the defensive end? Or is this exactly what you thought would happen?
Yeah, I think it's been fairly typical. I think, again, it just goes back to physicality. I can't tell you how many times they're saying that word over and over, and specifically doing that without fouling, right? Just leading with your chest, pulling your hands back. A lot of, from Coach Brown's perspective, their recent foul troubles have been just reaching at the end, or, you have one hand up and then the other one goes down, and little things like that. So I think there's going to be an adjustment to that for sure. Again, they adjusted mid-game in that Lakers matchup on Sunday night, and I thought that was really encouraging. And Fox being the head of the snake, I think, sets the tone for everybody else. Chris Duarte is somebody that I think makes a notable difference for this squad defensively. Like last night, Harrison Barnes is the one initially assigned to LeBron James. Last year, it's like, after that, where do you go? When HB needs to sit, I guess you just have to fully line up his minutes with LeBron. And even then, Harrison does a decent job, but obviously it's a team effort, and I don't think Harrison is the defender he necessarily used to be. He's just probably about a neutral right now in my mind. Now you can go to Chris Duarte for a little while, who does a great job being physical, fighting through screens and battling. So I think they have a few more defensive options. I mean, mainly just talking Chris Duarte, and you could throw JaVale McGee in there a bit, but defensive options that can still contribute to this league best or top 5 offense. So there haven't been too many differences. I think little things like De'Aaron buying in or Keegan Murray being really big on the boards last night. Kevin Huerter last night embraced his physicality defensively, got a lot of boards. Similarly to Nuggets, I think they stole it from the Nuggets. I don't know this, but they give out a defensive player of the game chain.
Hey.
And I think Jordy Fernandez might have brought this over from Denver. But Kevin Huerter got it last night, joked that it didn't take him 30 games this year. It only took him 3. So I think we have seen a little bit of buy-in, but I don't know that I'd necessarily say any of it has been unexpected just because they've been hammering that physicality home since Summer League.
Yeah. No, it's completely fair. And you want a team that knows, and it was actually one of my takeaways just watching the Lakers game last night. We're recording this on Monday. Was that this team kind of knows how to win now. And there are definitely, when you go through those trials, you go through those steps, you have to take all of the steps to success. You can't just jump past some of them because you're going to forget the details along the way. And I think this team has grown up a little bit. And I look around the roster, and yeah, there are some young guys here or there. I don't want to, like, Keegan Murray's still going to learn. He's still going to get better. But even guys like Fox and Monk, like, those are 2017 draft guys. Sabonis is a 2016 draft guy. These are vets now. There's a lot of veterans on this roster, and I think that they reasonably know how to win. And that really manifested last night when Fox goes out with the ankle injury, and you just have Monk kind of initiate some offense. And they also didn't have Sabonis on the floor because he fouled out, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's part of the foul trouble, right? I think late in the third quarter, they had like 4 guys, 3 starters and JaVale McGee, all with 4 fouls. And then obviously Domas ended up fouling out before the end of regulation. But yeah, Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox goes down with that right ankle injury. He kind of just on his takeoff for a layup, landed on Gabe Vincent's foot, rolled his ankle. We'll see what ends up happening there. I'd imagine it'll be a week or 2 somewhere in there. It doesn't sound like it's too bad based on the reporting this morning. But yeah, you just see really they went really small for a little while. They went with Harrison Barnes at the 5, actually, Keegan Murray, Malik Monk, Kevin Huerter, and I'm forgetting for a moment the last guy that they had out there, but an extremely small lineup for a second. And then you go maybe a little bit bigger at times during overtime with JaVale McGee as an option. But Malik Monk and JaVale McGee have a really good synergy pretty naturally in the pick and roll, as Malik Monk being a guy that seems like he prefers to throw the lob first in the pick and roll. And that's obviously where JaVale's strength lies at this point in his career. So we saw that click. And there's just a belief in this group. And I think that stems a lot from Coach Brown, but really just the team-wide chemistry and belief in what they have in that locker room that goes even deeper. You know, we've seen some encouraging depth like Sasha Vezenkov. We didn't know if he was actually going to be in the rotation to start the year, but Trey Lyles dealing with a sort of tricky calf strain that they're just playing it safe with has given him opportunity. Like Kobe Jones, rookie, looked great in preseason. He hasn't gotten any opportunity. Maybe with De'Aaron Fox out, we'll see that be the case. But you're just seeing these guys step in. I agree with you. They know how to win games, and that comes down to knowing what their identity is offensively, and they're trying to also create a defensive identity. I think we've seen that so far. They're battling, but still a lot of things to clean up for sure.
So put on your crystal ball for me here really quickly. We're talking again in 3 weeks about the Kings. That'll be when our Pacific Division check-in episode will be. Put on your crystal ball and tell me what Kings fans are going to be talking about in 3 weeks. What are fans going to be, whether it's excited or concerned or just really positive about? What could Kings fans be looking at?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be a really good regular season team. I've very much bought into, and you've heard a lot of national people saying this recently, that like the Kings have so much of a desire to win as many regular season games as possible. And I don't know that every team in the West is like that, right? Like the Lakers or maybe the Warriors can have their moments where like, you know, we're going to save it for the playoffs. And I don't think that's necessarily the case for the Kings. They're trying to set the tone now and hope that carries over into the playoffs rather than starting a little bit later as a team that is still trying to grow and really plant themselves, cement themselves as one of the better teams in the West. So I think they're going to win a lot of regular season games. And I think that that will be the case when we're talking in 3 weeks. You know, I think that this is going to be a top 4 to 6 team in the West during that stretch, with even if De'Aaron Fox goes down, they play in Golden State on Wednesday, but then they have 2 straight games against Houston. They have Oklahoma City in there. And one other game that's slipping my mind that is a relatively easier opponent. And I know that OKC's better this year, but I still think Sacramento is significantly better than them. So I think they'll be able to survive the De'Aaron Fox injury, whatever that absence looks like. I think a lot of the conversation is going to be around like, okay, well, how can we get Kobe Jones some minutes, or how can we get Sasha Vezenkov some minutes? For people that are like really invested into the deeper aspects of the Kings, obviously, because I think the starting lineup is set. I think there's going to be lingering conversations throughout the year, though, of like, can this team really win a chip with this level of defense? And that is still going to be the conversation for a little while here, is has the physicality actually made a significant difference defensively?
Yeah, this is where we get into the niche stuff. And I think that there's some ability there for Malik Monk to slide over to the backup point guard purely, and then to have somebody like a Chris Duarte or Sasha Vezenkov or even a Colby Jones just hey, slide in on the wing, play some wing defense, and then like have some reasonable rotation minutes there. But it cuts out a guy like Davion Mitchell, who like nickname is literally off night. So I don't know when like what that's going to look like if you had to pinpoint one thing, because that's a tough one. Like you'd want to get a guy like Vizenkov or Colby Jones in there, but those guys are wings, and like Malik Monk's gonna play.
Yeah, I think if De'Aaron is out, that like you would just go to Davion in the starting lineup. I think they really like Malik's energy off the bench, and a lot of times last year, say Harrison Barnes would go out, they'd slide Terrence Davis or Kessler Edwards into that spot rather than a Trey Lyles, just to keep their similar rotation that the bench is used to, have those guys sort of stay in their rhythm. So I'd imagine they'll keep Malik coming off the bench. I do think that specifically when De'Aaron's out, and last night was a good example, Sunday night was a good example, is he can play that point guard role as you're talking about. And maybe Colby Jones slides into there and sort of shares the responsibilities a little bit. As you know, a lot of the offense ends up just running through the big anyways when Sabonis is out there. So it's not a traditional point guard responsibilities that we're talking about here. But yeah, I mean, I think that Davion's minutes haven't been the greatest since, not bad minutes, but just his minutes total. He's not getting an extensive run and opportunity on a night-to-night basis until that three-point shot continues to prove itself. And then he can really play alongside De'Aaron Fox or alongside a Malik Monk if you want Malik initiating the offense, because those catch and shoot shots got to go down for Davion. He does have the great nickname off night for a good reason, but he needs to have a couple on nights offensively.
That's a good place to stop. Hey, Brenden, thank you so much for hopping on to talk with Kings with me, and I'm very excited to continue to track this over the course of the season. We'll check in again on the Kings specifically in 3 weeks. All right.
Yep. Thanks again, Ryan.